let's dive in, guys. A lot of people believe, and you're hearing buyers say this right now, I'm going to wait for prices to go down, right? Why do they say that? Well, like them, I also once believed, and it sort of is true, that the real estate market is a cyclical market. Does anybody know what that means? Right? It has cycles, right? It goes like this. So if you believe that and you think prices are high, then obviously you would think, well, I'll just wait until later. Later, anywhere in here, prices will be lower. However, if you actually zoom out on any long-term chart on real estate, and I don't mean long-term like going back to the 1700s, although that would work too. I mean just going back to the 1970s, if you look at any, just go to the Fed. By the way, I put my YouTube channel up here because I do the graphs and all of the links and all that stuff is on my YouTube. So if you like this stuff, I have that all there. But today I'm going to be a little less formal. We're just going to talk about it on the board. If you look at the long-term chart of real estate prices, it looks like this. Okay, you have to zoom in to see the nooks and crannies in it. But if you zoom out, just go back to 1970, the Fed posts this, and they'll show you the recessions and things like that. It basically looks like that. Does that look cyclical? No. It's more secular. And what's funny is, and I've always followed Jim Cramer since he wrote his first book, Confession of a Street Addict, and basically exposed Wall Street for everything that they do. If you want to know what really goes on, read that book, Confessions of a Street Addict. Jim Cramer, yeah. And you know, he was talking about how real estate is shifting from a cyclical nature to a secular nature. But upon review, it's always been secular. Why? Meaning that it's a long-term thing. Why? Because we have a limited amount of it, and we have a growing population. There's only so much real estate. But this is an important thing for you to understand, not to necessarily rebroadcast or disseminate, but just to understand that over long periods of time, real estate's going to go higher. And it doesn't really matter when you buy. If you bought at the very top before the global economic collapse, which was caused by United States real estate, if you bought at the very top of that worst case scenario, it took less than 10 years before you were back to break even. Less than 10 years in a worst case scenario. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So what happened? Why did Jim Cramer, why is he talking about it going from cyclical to secular? We have to kind of pull back a little bit and look at the crash of 2008. Called the Great Recession, whatever you want to call it. My uncle's a developer in St. Louis. He's a real estate agent who works with builders and develops land. And in the St. Louis area, about 95% of the builders went out of business during the crash. That's also true pretty much across the board. The ones who survived were, you know, the ones that are around today, KB Homes, Lennar, the big ones who could raise debt and do all those things. The medium and small home builders just died. They went away. They couldn't make it. They all had product out there. They got hammered. They lost money. So what happened was we lost a bunch of builders, and the ones who were around were very gun shy. I mean, this lasted for 2 or 3, 4 years for some of these companies, where the new inventory that we needed, because people didn't stop making babies, did they? Did the crash also crash that? It wasn't the libido crash, right? It was a real estate crash. That's also secular. So I could have made a pun there, but I didn't. So what happened was the people who we rely on to bring in new supply for our ever-growing population had to turn the spigot off. And the problem with that is that you can't just turn it right back on. It takes years. Not only that, but they're up against a growing amount of regulation and red tape to build new product. Not only that, but where are they going to build new product? In prime areas? No, you have to keep going further and further out. You have to keep expanding, getting further and further away from the cities. So essentially, right now, we are way behind on inventory. And it's nationwide. Is anyone looking at real estate elsewhere in the country as well, and not just in San Diego? You are, Leslie? I'm looking at everywhere, all over the place, trying to find, is there anywhere where there's like deals on real estate? No. Even in my home state of Missouri, where you know the whole idea of buying a house is that you buy it for $100,000 and 30 years later it's worth $110,000. You know, stuff there has doubled in the last few years. No one there's ever seen anything like it before. I talked to realtors back there, they're like, we've never seen this, ever. So it's not a small thing. It's not a cyclical thing. It is a much bigger issue. We are millions and millions and millions of houses short right now. Best estimate is 5.5 million nationwide. Majority of those would be in California. So if we're short by millions and millions of homes, what do the home builders need to do? They need to keep up with the demand. They need to keep up with just the regular demand. And then they also have to make up for that shortage, that shortfall. How do you do that when there's less and less land and more regulation? It's a very, very difficult thing to do, and that is why you are seeing what you're seeing. So then, COVID hits. COVID hits. I remember Jay and I were doing a seminar, like the day, what's up, Jay? Jay and I were doing a seminar, and I hadn't really heard much about it. I don't watch the mainstream media, but people started emailing from the RSVP, just like we did today, the Eventbrite. And they said, hey, I'm not going to make it today because of the coronavirus. And I got like 5 or 6 of those messages. I'm like, what are they talking about? Well, a lot of people believed, let's see if there's any brave souls in here. Did anyone here think the market would crash when COVID hit? Right? It made sense. It made sense, right? Hey, people are going to lose their jobs. Businesses are going to go out of business. That's going to cause a crash. The market told us, and if you don't take away anything today but this, take this away and be able to translate this to your buyers particularly. The market told us something. Always follow the money, right? Someone tells you that you should buy Apple, but they're buying Microsoft, right? Which one are you going to believe? Follow the money. The market told us something when COVID hit. Remember this, and this has been a while, and we don't have masks on right now, so remember they told us, or someone does, that's fine, no worries. Wear a mask if you want to, right? So they told us to stay in our homes. They told us not to leave the house. Think about that. Nations, the whole world pretty much, was told to stay at home and not go anywhere. We've all seen outbreak, contagion, right? We're expecting to go for a walk and see dead bodies on the sidewalk, right? That's the level of fear that was inserted into us. And what did people do? Where did the invest in toilet paper flipping? I was flipping houses, now I'm flipping paper, and not bonds. So people did what? Bought real estate. Hand over fist. Not just individuals, institutions, everybody. So think about that for a second. We had a DEFCON 5 situation. We had a you're going to die if you leave your house situation. And people, just less than a decade off of a worldwide collapse caused by real estate, people poured their money into real estate. In the past, this might have been gold, silver, bonds.
Collector plates.
Yes, collecting items. Yeah, you're right. Art. That's literally what what people would do in those times. They would try to buy things that had some sort of intrinsic, limited inventory value. And what did people buy this time? They bought real estate. That is the market talking to us. That is the collective group of people, not some talking head on a TV or in front of a room. That is the whole market saying, we believe in this. Or, shit hits the fan, we're going here. That was the shit hitting the fan. That's what it looks like. So people bought real estate. So they told us something. They told us that real estate is what we're voting for. We vote with our money. This is another takeaway I would like everyone to get. This is something to just keep in mind with everything that you're doing. When you spend your money with some company, you buy a product, you're voting for its existence, right? If you go to Target instead of Walmart, you're voting for Target to exist instead of Walmart. When you go into Target, if you buy this brand of milk versus that, you're voting for them to exist. Pretty much the whole world, the whole country, I don't know about the rest of the world, the whole country voted on real estate. Now, we've been seeing, we're up 10 straight years, right? In real estate, I mean, 2011 or 2010 was the last negative year, it was a small negative, and then 2011 we had a small positive, and we've been up since then, right? So 10 straight years we've been up. So this macro scenario we're talking about today, this lack of supply issue, is something that has been moving the market nicely through a calm, normal progression of time. But when the crisis came, money ran to real estate. So when someone tells you they're worried about a crash, just remember to let them know that the last time we had a massive worldwide scare, people ran to real estate, not from it. And that makes sense. Someone tell me this, answer this question. So one answer. What's one asset, or not asset class, one asset that has performed better than real estate in the last 10 years? Does anyone name anything? Crypto. Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the only thing. Now, there might be a penny stock somewhere or something like that, but Bitcoin is the only thing that has outperformed real estate. And Bitcoin is down 50% in the last few months. So if someone even does know the answer to that question, which they probably won't, there's your response. But it's a good question to ask. What has outperformed real estate? Where is a better place to invest your money? Where you also get tax advantages, et cetera. Now, we also have, so that's just in general. We also have right now Wall Street. Anybody familiar with BlackRock? The largest institution, largest fund company in the world. They have now bought $330 billion in US real estate. Most of it single family. They're the company, if you follow me on YouTube, I covered this story. They bought an entire housing development in Texas before it was completed for 50% above asking price. Okay? Why are they doing that? Why are they buying homes? They also bought hundreds and thousands of units, multifamily here in San Diego just a few months ago. Why is the biggest firm, Jay?
They're hedging. So they're banking on the rents of the
Yep. So you're 100% correct. So what they're doing is, and I think this is something that we can see as an additional leg higher for real estate, is big funds getting away from bonds. Why would you buy a bond, which provides no tax advantage, that's super fragile to inflation, and gives you a very small return at best, in a best case scenario, and you can still lose all your money, right? A bond doesn't mean that you have guaranteed money coming. So you can still lose all your money, you're gonna make 2% or something or less, and you have no tax advantage. Why would you do that when you can buy real estate, rent it, raise the rent every year, get tax advantages, okay? You see what I'm saying? It's also a hedge against inflation. Exactly. You also have the opportunity for appreciation. You have an opportunity for appreciation with bonds too, but not in an inflationary circumstance. Real estate is up over 20% year over year right now. I remember I posted this, if you follow me on Facebook, 8 years ago. It came up in my memories. I had posted that real estate was up 20% year over year. And I remember back then, 8 years ago, when everyone was saying, this is crazy, I'm gonna wait. And the median price went from like $335 to $405. Does anybody know what the median price is? Detached, it's $865. I don't know the blended one. I meant to look it up. I just forgot. I'm realizing now. I also forgot to shave today, so I forget things. But $865 detached is median. Bonkers. So it's doubled from what it was 8 years ago. And the people who waited then are probably still the same people waiting now. And they're going to be that person who's, you know that meme, the skeleton looking out the window, waiting for real estate to go down? So Zillow and Redfin are also buying homes, hand over fist. You guys notice this? How many people have lost a listing because Zillow offered more than what you told them? Does that happen to you, Benny? Anyone else? Does that happen to you too? Different iBuyer kind of situation? Open door. So what's going on there? Zillow, Redfin, BlackRock. There's over 200 other institutions on Wall Street buying real estate. Are they dumb? Are they drunk on OPM? Anyone know what that is? Not opium. OPM. Other people's money. Are they just drunk on that? Are they so competitive that they're being negligent? It's possible, right? We're going to get very real here in a second. It's possible. It's possible that they're making a huge mistake. Steve Pletz, we chronicled this whole, we did like 3 videos on this. He went to a listing appointment. They said, we got an offer from Redfin. He said, you know what, you should take that. It's a lot more than you're going to get if you try to sell it to someone else. We chronicled the whole thing. We watched Redfin buy it. We watched them resell it, and they probably made about 20, 25 grand was ultimately what we think they flipped it for. In an up market, that works. You know, it does. Here's the reality, and Jay mentioned it already. The case for investment real estate is very strong because the value of the home doesn't matter. If I buy the house for $800,000, it goes down to $700,000. The only thing that matters is what I can get for it in rent. We know the macro scenario now, the housing shortage that we're in. I had a buyer who recently he was renting his house out and he's buying another one. He had rented the house out before and lived in it for a couple years. He said, I've rented this house out dozens of times over the years. I've never got a response like this before. He said, in 24 hours, I had over 100 applications. He said, what I couldn't believe the quantity, but the quality. I couldn't believe these were executives, doctors, nurses, attorneys, people offering to pay cash for the whole year up front within 24 hours. The housing crisis is real, what I had written up here earlier, but it's not what people think. It's not a crisis of housing is going to shit. It's the crisis of we don't have enough of it, and we can't build enough. And this trend is not changing, not anytime soon anyway. The builders are going to have a hard time just keeping up with demand, much less making up over 5 million homes that they need to. In order for us to be in a balanced scenario, remember that's just a balanced scenario. So obviously, these things have a major impact on residential real estate and the prices of residential real estate, and that's exactly what we've been seeing, not just in San Diego, but all across the country. So I do want to say, be careful though, right? This trend that we talked about earlier, that's we zoom all the way out, that's what it looks like, but there's peaks and valleys in there. It's possible that we could be in one of these situations where we're up here right now, right? This happens. You go up, you go down, you come up. We could be up here. It doesn't mean that we're going to go down here, though. We could very well go sideways for a while, as we continue along this trend. It doesn't necessarily mean that this has to exist, and that's the thing that people are wrong about. And unfortunately, and I'm sure you talked to buyers about this, people say, well, I'm waiting for prices to come back. I think they have to at some point. At some point, this has got to give. They might be right. It just might be 10 or 20 years from now. It may be 5 years from now. They'll think they're right if 5 years from now, real estate has a crash of 30% after we're up 300% from where we are today. Really, they'll think they're right. They'll be like, I knew it. Okay, let's buy that condo for 1.7. They'll be ready to pull the trigger then. That's what, that makes them feel good about it. So everyone wants a deal, right? And so this is the thing that we have to communicate to people. So I do want to say this though. Whenever the market is up a lot in a short period of time, it becomes more fragile, right? It becomes a little bit more fragile. I mean, just think about the last $1 million home that you sold. If it sold again for $800,000, would you be super shocked? Would it still kind of make sense for the house, what it was, right? It wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's only $800,000. I'd be like, okay. So just know that the market gets a little more fragile as things go higher. Let's take a look at this. So right now, every item that moves real estate higher is sort of peaking. Let's do it on a scale of 1 to 10. Brian DeVore, where are interest rates? Scale of 1 to 10. For goodness.
As far as
what's good for real estate?
it's a 10.
Pretty much, right? We can say 9.5 maybe. They're not at the absolute lowest they've ever been, but really close, right? So rates are 9.5. Let's see, I'm going to have to make a mark here. How about supply, inventory? Well, what's good for real estate?
Well, prices,
It's a 10, right? Inventory, we're just doing a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being good for real estate, 0 being bad. Inventory is definitely a 10. There's just very little. It's increasing a little bit right now, but people will call me if they haven't got, an offer in a week, right? Like that's a long time to not get an offer. So that's how I know, we're nowhere near the bottom, that's for sure. So programs, I'll answer this one since I'm the lone guy. Programs, I get emails every day. In fact, I got one yesterday. Jumbo, and this was at a big bank, Jumbo increased LTV 90%. Increased LTV to 95% on other programs. We're doing more, there's more bank statement loans out there and things like that. A truly stated loan doesn't really exist, but programs, I would say this is probably an 8. 10 out of 10 would be like before that crash when people were buying houses who had no business doing because they didn't really have a job or anything. So we're not at that point, but we've got a lot of programs and there's more coming back. So let's be honest with ourselves. How about cash? Is there any cash out there? Can we say 10 out of 10 on that? Does everyone agree with that? Okay. Stock market is up 500% in the last 12 years. The real estate market has doubled in the last 8 years on a median basis here in San Diego. It's up even more than that in some cases. If you bought at the right time in the right place, you could be up 300 or 400% here in San Diego, which is kind of crazy to think about. The cash is everywhere. Institutional buying. What do you guys think? That's 10. I mean, we've never seen this before. It's literally never happened. How about demand? We have 3? 12? Someone say 12? We'll just say 10. So, is there anything I missed that contributes to the price of real estate? I mean, this is the main things, right? So, yep, inventory, 10 out of 10 right there.
Well, and also too, other options. You know, if rent goes down.
Thank you very much.
Then demand might go down, the rent's going up.
I knew someone in here would be smarter than me and come up with another one, and then, of course it had to be Brian. So, rent, these are pretty high, yeah? You guys checked out rents lately? Okay, so we got to be honest with ourselves, right? We can't just be blindly bullish about anything. All these things are contributing. All these things are sort of running full steam, all 8. So if we lose a little bit on some of these, that may cause things to calm down. Yeah? Right? Would that be a bad thing? Would it be a bad thing if things calm down a little bit? Is that not normal? It's normal, yeah? It would actually be kind of good. This is what I'm trying to prepare some buyers for right now, is that, hey, if you really want to wait, okay. But let me tell you what you're waiting for. You're not waiting for 25% off, because that's probably not going to happen. What you're waiting for is to not have 30 offers. Maybe there'll be just 2 or 3. Maybe you'll be the only one. But that's what you're waiting for. It's not a crash. If we can get, first of all, this is being manipulated, right? We know that there's no way. I mean, they just can't catch up. Programs, this is something that can change, depending. Is the cash going anywhere? Yeah, it's going into real estate. Institutions, like I said, one of my biggest fears, and I hope that my grandchildren don't have to deal with this. One of my biggest fears is that Wall Street will own all the real estate. Eventually, they'll buy it all. And you won't be able to own a home unless you're rich. Sound familiar? I talked to an agent this week, was it this week or last week? He's been doing this for 30 years, and he said, I remember when I used to sell houses to police officers, teachers. Not anymore. You basically have to be rich to buy a house. We're not that far away from it. This is why it's so important to encourage young people to buy a home, invest in real estate, own something, okay? Because eventually, I believe institutions are going to dump bonds and buy houses and rent them out. And that's what they're already doing. The biggest ones and the smartest ones are already doing it. There's so many reasons why. But this is why, if you guys have been paying close attention to the Fed, the Federal Reserve, and the bonds that they are buying, you guys know that, right? Part of the reason why rates are this low is because the Federal Reserve is buying billions of dollars worth of bonds every day. Everybody knows that, right? So they're buying billions and billions of dollars worth of bonds every single day. If they didn't, rates would be way higher because the organic market is not interested in bonds. So when they recently, it was earlier this week, actually it may have been yesterday or the day before, when they were talking about this and Jerome Powell was testifying in front of Congress, he said, we're not going to change anything. Even though, yes, inflation might be there, even though this or that, we're not going to change anything. We're going to keep buying the bonds. And I think the reason why he's saying we have to do that, instead of doing the tapering they were talking about doing this year, tapering off, buying a little less every day, they're not doing that because they know that the bond market is dead. So if that's the case, and Wall Street's going to buy real estate instead, I'm a little bit worried about interest rates because Wall Street doesn't need to borrow money to buy it, right? They have people give it to them. So that is a little bit of a concern for me. But again, that's just something that makes real estate values go higher. So, all right. So what's next? What's next is a little bit more of the same. We may see some sideways action. We may see, maybe we'll see a little bit of a slowdown. Maybe we'll see a little bit of sideways stuff. In the summer, that's not too unusual. But in the next 3 to 4 years at least, expect prices to go higher. San Diego, I know I've been saying this for almost a decade now. San Diego is a way better place to live than LA, San Francisco, Vancouver. You can go up to all these places, Seattle, where the price per square foot is higher than here. This is a way better place to be. And I always knew that the world would figure it out. They would figure it out eventually. That's why I've been screaming for people to buy homes for so long. Because it just can't stay a secret. It's the best place to live. I've traveled all over the world, always excited to come home. Always excited to come home. And I constantly see people who move away coming back for very good reason. So let's talk about application real quick. And then I have a special surprise for you guys. So right now for sellers, interestingly enough, and I know a lot of really good agents are already doing this, but most of the time when I talk to sellers who are also buying, they don't really know about like rent backs and seller in place SIPs and stuff like that. I think that is actually a really good sort of tip of the spear conversation to have. It may be the case that some agents have it in their process to talk about, well, once we get at the kitchen table, then I'll explain that. I would lead with that more. I would go with that more right up front because a lot of sellers aren't realizing that. I mention it to them, tell them, hey, ask your agent about this. They're like, wow, that's a total game changer. So if you're already talking about that, great. If you're not, make that something that you bring further up in the timeline when you're talking to sellers because they really like the idea of not having a gun to their head when they go to the buy side. Also, the market's strong, right? Use the results you're getting in this market right now when you're selling these homes. Use these results to market yourself, right? Archive this stuff. Make a video, keep track of it. You're getting great results. Listen, the market is up, that's great. But when you're getting great results, capture it. Video is a great way to do it. Even if you just keep track of it so you can share it with future sellers. Hey, we listed for this, we sold for that, whatever. This is a great time to do that because when the market is good, it helps make you look good. So archive it, take a picture. Also, how many people in here have done List It Live? I know you have. I know you have. I know you have. I know you have. Okay, do List It Live for every listing you get. Yeah, you've been on there. Do List It Live for every listing you get. There's absolutely no reason not to. Even if you think it's going to sell really quickly, do it. I call it the Redfin effect, and this is a perfect example. My mom is she worked in the real estate business for a very long time, and she's sort of what I would consider the perfect average consumer. Kind of knows a little bit, but not that much. I bounce things off her to try to figure out what people will think. And she was looking at real estate on Redfin, and the same agent kept popping up. No matter which listing she went to, and she said, oh man, this lady Carly, she's everywhere. She's got all these listings. We know that's not the case, right? There are other people's listings. They're just popping Carly up on the screen. But the point is, because she kept seeing the same agent, she started to think this agent is everywhere. This agent has everything. You want to try to do that same thing for yourself. People who are holding open houses for other agents and showing, hey, I'm holding this house open today, or whatever, people don't know it's not your listing. That's great. They just think you're everywhere. They think you have everything for sale. So take the opportunity to market yourself, especially since it's free. For buyers, we talked about it earlier. What's the worst case is what? Worst case scenario, the global economic collapse caused by residential real estate in the United States of America, less than 10 years. If you bought at the absolute worst time, the very, very peak, until it was like 9.5 years, until you got back to even on a median basis. So the worst case scenario is 9.5 years, then what? We need to what? Have a 10-year plan. If you're buying real estate with a 10-year plan, then you have prepared for the worst case scenario. And so have a 10-year plan to own your real estate. If you don't think you're going to be here for 10 years, let's look at what rents are. Let's make sure that makes sense for you. If it does, you're golden, right? We know that rents especially are going to continue to go higher. Even if prices for purchasing stall and kind of go sideways or maybe even leak down a little bit and kind of do this thing for a little while, which I don't think is going to happen, but it may. If it does, then rents are still going to go higher because we have the same issue. I told the story I was giving you earlier, Mike, he said he had 100 applicants. I said, dude, you need to take that listing down and relist it for $1,000 more a month. What are you doing? The market's talking to you. You've listed it too cheap. So he was in a hurry. He had a purchase and he needed to get it rented. But, you know, landlords are wise to that. Institutions are wise to that. Rents are going higher, okay? You can just count on it. Is it a horrible thing if property values go down? No, we discussed that earlier. What if I buy a house and then it goes down in value? Is that bad for me?
Only if you have to sell in that one moment.
Only if you have to sell it. If I buy a house and the value goes down, does that help me? It lowers my taxes. It lowers my payment. So, you know, if I buy a house and values immediately go down right away, what's going to happen is when I reassess, when my escrow account gets audited at the end of the year and the taxes are lower, then they're going to lower my payment. So unless I have to sell it, it doesn't matter what it's worth. And if the value goes down, that'll actually make it cheaper for me to own the same house. So that's another thing that I remind people of, because they think, well, what if I buy and then I'm just at the very top and then it crashes right afterwards? If you can afford the payment and you like the house, what difference does it make? The payment will go down. These three things, we tend to not mention all of them. So I'm just going to write it down, because when people say, why should I buy real estate? We got to mention all three of these things. So you obviously have tax deductions, principal pay down, right? And then you have the opportunity, I always say the opportunity for appreciation. When you rent, how much tax deduction do you get?
None.
How much principal pay down do you get? You pay down the landlord's principal, but you don't get anything. Any chance for appreciation? Growing your wealth? That's the image I like to use. This is owning, renting. And that, some people are visual, they'll really appreciate this. It will make sense to them, they'll see it and they'll go, that makes sense to me now. So for people who are visual, this is a really good way to do it. Let's see. So, times have been good. Now it's time to be wise. I wouldn't, the market's going to get thinner, right? The pie is getting smaller. When you have institutions buying real estate, when you have Redfin and Zillow buying real estate, there's going to be less transactions for us, right? That's a reality that we have to face. So I would think right now would be a good time to be wise, be smart, only spend money where it really makes sense. I'm not saying cut all the budget or anything, but if you have, things you're spending money on it's not working, feel free to cut that. Now's a good time, even if you're totally fine with money. Try to spend money on do the things that are free that work, and spend money promoting those. A good example, Listed Live we mentioned earlier. Do your Listed Live video, then spend your money promoting that, as opposed to going and spending a bunch of money to make some other video, you know what I mean? Be wise, try to be smart with your budget. Know what you're spending, be ahead of it. Be ahead of it. If we know the pie is getting smaller, stay ahead of it. Let's just be smart. Let's just be prudent.
Stop cutting everyone's commission.
Yeah. How many people have seen buy-side commissions at 1.5% out there?
I've seen one at 1.
1%?
They should be shot.
Capital punishment. So just let's be smart. Let's be smart. Let's stay after it. Let's work hard, but let's be smart with our money. Let's look at our budget, make sure we're doing the right things. Okay. Utilize things that are free. Hey, now things are reopened, right? Happy hours with your sphere. How many people have already done one? Happy hour, past client happy hour? Only a couple people. How many people have gone back and done the housewarming parties that you would have done for people with COVID, during COVID? Anybody done any of those yet? Okay, this is a good investment. This is a good investment right now. It's smart, it's referral based. People are ready to have a barbecue, things like that. Let's do some of those things. Back to the basics. Which Facebook ad is working, Derek? I don't care. F Facebook. This is a referral-based business. We need to kind of go back to the basics, be smart with money. Let's not try to meet strangers. Let's go to people who we know and have them introduce us to their friends, so we're immediately a friend. That's my best advice right now. Okay, so I have a special guest who's going to come up and talk. I know we did a poll earlier about video. Brett, if you want to come get set up. Brett Ward, everybody.
Good morning. All right. How many, I know we've got some lenders and some other folks in different aspects of the business. How many real estate agents do we have here today? Awesome. Thank you for showing up. Isn't it great that we can get back outside? Isn't it nice that we can actually see somebody smile? So I know we're all happy about that, and I would take Derek's advice if I were you and start doing those events and things to connect people together, to tie that sphere of influence together, to expand that sphere of influence. So, question I've got. True or false? Real estate is a simple business. Okay, how many trues? How many falses? Okay, everybody has to vote. Real estate's a simple business. True? True. Okay, false. All right, half and half. It's true. All right. I didn't say it's an easy business. Lord knows those of you who have been trying to get listings and trying to get buyers, their offers accepted. No, it's not an easy business, but it is simple. Why? We've got a buyer, a seller, and a piece of real property in the middle. So in terms of the business model, those are all well-defined. You know who your customers, you know who your clients are. It's well-defined. The process, right? The process is formulaic. It's the same every single time. Here's the process, right? Get a listing appointment. Hopefully do a good job of selling at that point. Secure that listing. Market the property. Review offers. Negotiate. Close the deal. Pretty much. So I love simple. Simple is the best kind of business to be in. When you're in a simple business, what that simply means is you just need to execute. You just need to execute. And I think that's where there's a lot of mystery in the real estate space. I've been working with, marketing with real estate agents for well over a decade. I've had conversations literally with thousands of you. So I understand the psychographics, the pain points, where you need to execute and spend your time versus not, And so I've got a little bit of a roadmap, and now we've taken our business model, we've applied that to help be a resource for you. So within this transaction process, which one of these is the most difficult part of it? What's the most difficult part?
Get a listing appointment.
What was that, Rebecca?
Get a listing appointment.
Does anybody disagree with that? Who in here closes north of 50% of the time you sit down across from a seller? Who closes that? Right?
It's just getting it.
It's getting it. Getting it is the biggest challenge. So you're right. Getting the listing appointment is far and away the most difficult part of what you guys do professionally for a living. So, have you asked yourself why this is? Does anybody have an answer to this? Why is getting a listing appointment the most difficult part of being a real estate agent? Drake.
Sometimes you gotta create the need.
What? You got to create the need?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's being in the right place at the right time when those people are making that decision. You know what I mean? It's just somehow being there. Or
Okay.
being there.
The somehow being there, we're getting closer. Anybody else?
Saturation of agents, and there's a ton of agents.
And that's one of the hard parts about being it. It's very competitive. I'll tell you why. It's really, Steve.
Finding the client's ready to sell.
Right, okay. So this all comes back to one simple word: marketing. Marketing is the key to getting listing appointments. Another show of hands question. By show of hands, how many of you in here consider yourselves excellent marketers, amazing marketers? Jay Lee, one? All right. So here is the ultimate cruel irony. And again, generally speaking, you got into real estate because you like people, you like helping people. It's a puzzle. There's a great income opportunity attached to it. You get to take somebody on an emotional journey, and you get an unbelievable satisfaction after helping someone do that, right? Isn't that why we all got into real estate? She got into it to make a lot of money. Money, right. Of course, but to do something, to have a certain lifestyle, to be able to pick up your kids, to be able to see their ball games, all that, those are all the reasons we got into it. Not because we're great marketers. And unfortunately, the thing that you need to do if you want to continue to grow your business is get really good at marketing. And we're here to show you today a very easy way to do that you all are doing on some level a little bit, and we're going to help you throw gasoline on that. So, your number one source of business, I've asked this hundreds of times one-to-one, so let's try it as a group. Your number one source of business is? Referrals. Referrals, right? Is from, what'd you say, Brian? From your sphere. Referrals from your sphere of influence, from your SOI, right? So, I would wager, it's very rare unless somebody understands and works with new home construction that they are not north of 75% referral business. Typically, I get below or between 75 and 100%. I think Nadia told me last 12 months 100% referral business, right? And you guys are cranking. Yeah, you're cranking. So you're doing something right. I would wager some of the things we're going to talk about are some of the things you're doing because I've seen a spike in the business. So according to NAR, almost 3 out of 4 agents get their deals through referral. Here's the lower one is incredible. 77%, right? Almost 8 out of 10 sign their listing agreement with the first agent they talk with. Okay? So it's a race. It's a race. How do you become that first agent? That's really what we're here to answer today. How do you become that first agent? So, if they are your number one source of business, how do you get more of them? Anybody got a quick, easy one? What? Keep in contact with your sphere, right? All right. But since none of you are holding the client open houses and appreciations per Derek's question earlier, let's talk about some other ways we can do that, possibly in addition to that. All right. So, we all know what this is, right? What's that? What is TOMA? Top of mind awareness. So, you want to position yourself when somebody is ready to buy or sell, you are the first person they think of. You immediately come to mind first. Because if more than 3 out of 4 people list with the first agent that they speak with, how do you position yourself to be that person? That's the ultimate question. That's the ultimate question. So, take a cue from Budweiser, right? If you've ever watched a Super Bowl, you've seen a Budweiser or a Bud Light commercial, right? I mean, for decades and decades. Why? Do they do a commercial and say, hey, you, lousy couch potato who's eating 5 bratwursts today, get up right now, go to the store and buy a case of Budweiser. Is that what the commercial says? No. It's a funny story. It's a cool thing. It's the Bud Light bottles playing a football game. It's the Clydesdales. It's all that. Why? Because the next time you go to the store, when you're standing in the beer aisle and you're looking at Miller or Coors, something is anchoring you to Budweiser, right? Top of mind awareness. That's why they spend billions and billions and billions. Impression, 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 impression. Top of mind awareness. So that's the key. If everything is referral based, then the better you are at creating top of mind awareness, the more you're going to get to that table to sign that listing presentation, right? It's really simple. So how are some of the ways that we can do that? My good buddy Brian DeVore here, he's got something called the Monday Market Minute. It goes out every Monday. I get it in my inbox. How many times do you think I watch the video that he puts in there? How often do you think I watch it? I've watched one. I've watched it one time. Okay? Okay. I know, it's shocking, right? I know all of you, every time you get an email from your title rep, you read it word for word too, right? Of course you do. Of course you do. But here's the thing. Whether I watch Brian's video or not, when I do watch them, they're very good. And based upon how good a subject line is, it's going to get me to watch that. Here's the key, though. I'm sorry, I don't know you. What's your name? Netta. Hi, Netta. Okay, so Netta is somebody that I would not be in her sphere of influence or vice versa, all right? I am in Brian's. We've known each other for years. So Brian sends me this thing. I'm like, okay, cool, headline, all right, delete. Next Monday, delete, delete, delete. Netta sends me one. I take that and I either click spam or I unsubscribe from it. Okay, because we're not in the sphere of influence. Here's what happens with Brian. I get that email from Brian. Brian's my friend. I delete it, but I don't unsubscribe and I don't hit spam on it. And so every single Monday, as long as he does this, I am reminded that Brian is a real estate agent. Whether or not I consume his content, but I'm reminded. Top of mind awareness. So when my next door neighbor or my friend from Carlsbad says, you know, we're thinking about buying, we're thinking about selling, you got to talk to my buddy Brian. That's how it happens. So if you are not infiltrating somebody's inbox with content, you're exposed. You're vulnerable to somebody who is, like Brian. The key, create content consistently. The 3 C's, create content consistently. That's it. And so we're here to talk about how we can help you do that. So these are 3 simple things that you can do. Everybody can do them. I find that most aren't. We talk a lot about video content. Has anybody ever done the selfie stick home tour? Right? Okay. Creating content is difficult. When you think about, okay, I'm a real estate agent. I didn't get into this to be a marketer, to be a videographer, to be a sound and lighting tech, to do script writing, do all this. I didn't get into this business. But now you know to maintain a competitive advantage, you need to. And so you either figure out how to do it on your own or you hire somebody, right? That's really your only choices. And then you go through person after person after person. Everybody who's tried to hire a social media manager knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's difficult to find somebody who truly understands you, your business, and the way you do it. But really, what are your choices? So what we want to do is we want to provide a resource for that. We started out 10 years ago as Real Talk San Diego. We've recently rebranded to Real Talk Media. Most people know us more so because of List It Live. We've had close to 1,000 unique agents on List It Live and done well over 2,000 properties in the 3+ years we've been doing it. Those that execute on it, like Rebecca and Alicia, who've been partners, I've watched their business grow. I see the amount of views they get on their posts versus everybody else because they go out and they execute on the content. Here's the studio that Derek referenced. If you haven't been to the new studio, it's unbelievable. You'll have an opportunity to see it live tomorrow on the real estate debate when we launch it. I'll tell you about that in a second. But we have designed this for you to be able to very easily come in and create professional content that's going to keep you top of mind in your sphere of influence. All right, so here's a new twist. For those of you that have been on List It Live, we've launched a new show called San Diego Market Movers. All right? What this does is this allows you, if you've got a listing, you can come in, you can do your List It Live segment, which will take you about five minutes. Every week, we do San Diego Market Movers at the same time. You have an opportunity, we do a brand new question of the week that's relevant to the current market. So in an interview format, you answer that. That's another 5-minute piece of content demonstrating you as a professional. Then we have what we call Agent's Choice. Another 5 minutes. This is something that you do in an interview style format where you pick the question. I'm working with a lot of first-time home buyers, so we'll tee up a question for you talking about first-time home buyers. All designed for you guys to create a bunch of content very, very quickly, moving in and out. In and out of the studio in less than 30 minutes, 3 professionally produced pieces of content that are not only shot and edited for you, but they're also distributed for you. So combined, we post 10+. So YouTube, we do an Instagram post, we put you on our Facebook page, we send you the source file. We essentially give you a truckload of content for you to then push out on social media, in your newsletter, and stay relevant in front of your sphere of influence. And by the way, grow your sphere of influence. Because when you take your List It Live segment, like Rebecca does, and you put it on Facebook, and then she goes back and she tags the seller. Says, so great working with the Jones family. They're unbelievable. And then after they sell it, she'll go and post it again and say, it was best of luck to the Jones family. They're, and they've decided to move to Texas so they don't have to pay California state taxes. We wish them all the best, right? Okay, so, and then 6 months later, she can repost it again. What is she doing? She's expanding her sphere of influence by infiltrating theirs, right? It's all branding, right? It's all impressions. So that's how you can leverage this. So some of you are probably going, Jesus, all right, cool, sounds good. What's this cost? Nothing. 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 Sorry. Nothing. Rob, right back. Everybody wave at Rob. If this is something you're interested in doing, be sure to chat with Rob. He can tell you how it works. We work with several other partners that if you're around, we can introduce you to and help you get on the short list. But the bottom line is, we don't want to charge you guys for this. There's enough people that are trying to get in your back pockets. Okay? We want to help you grow your business. This is why I've enjoyed working with Derek for so long, because he and I are aligned on providing value up front. All right? So here's our conclusion. Real estate is simple. Transactions come from referrals. Therefore, if you want more transactions, create, maintain top-of-mind awareness with your sphere of influence. It's as simple as that. So going all the way back, create content consistently, and rinse and repeat, because it is a simple business if you execute. So here's Rob's information. Rob at realtalkmedia.com is the easiest way to get in touch with him. Just send your contact information and say, yes, I'm interested. Tomorrow, Derek will be seen front and center in the new studio on doing the most recent edition of the Real Estate Debate with Melissa Tucci, Xandria Ujoa, Mark Marquez, and Mark Lotzoff, combined over $400 million a year in sales. So those are some people you can learn some good things from. So I want to thank you for all your time. Sorry we ran over a little bit late, but at least we've got lunch coming. Thank you, Derek. This was awesome. Appreciate it.